Bienvenidos todos. Yo soy Arturo Rico y voy a estar supliendo a Gustavo el día de hoy, junto con mis compañeras Valentina Plata y Claudia Terova. Nos da mucho gusto que asistan. Ya estamos esperando nada más que entren todos para comenzar la sesión. En un minuto o dos más empezamos. Listo, pues me da mucho gusto que nos acompañen el día de hoy. Hoy es el quinto día de actividades de encuentro creativo, el último día de esta semana, pero recuerden que tenemos toda la siguiente semana de webinars y de conferencias muy interesantes acerca de temas de creatividad italiana, entonces no se las deben de perder. El tema de esta conferencia es Be the Nexter, Key Drivers of Change in the New Normal. Y básicamente esto nos habla de la transformación digital y la virtualización de todo. Se está remodelando radicalmente los ámbitos de diseño y la comunicación al impulsar oportunidades sin precedentes para los creadores y proporcionar estéticas de otro mundo que empujen los límites entre las dimensiones físicas y las virtuales. Dentro de este contexto, la aceleración de los nuevos medios también está redefiniendo la forma en la que las marcas necesitan comunicarse para mantenerse relevantes. Y nos acompaña, claro, Elena Marinoni, que va a dar la ponencia en inglés, pero la voy a presentar en español para que todos ustedes sepan un poco acerca de su trayectoria, ¿no? Ella es la líder de programa y profesora de diseño visual en el Instituto Marangoni de Milán. Cuenta con una experiencia en diseño estratégico y combina su pasión por la educación con su trabajo como pronosticadora de tendencias de primer nivel. Es consultora de diseño, ayuda a las empresas y marcas a sintonizarse con las tendencias emergentes y apoya así a procesos de innovación y programas y estrategias de marketing y de comunicación de manera coherente con la evolución de las necesidades de los consumidores y el cambio sociocultural. Marinoni es especialista en detectar tendencias impulsadas por las redes sociales que afectan nuestros imaginarios sociales actuales y cruzan la frontera entre la vida real y el mundo digital. A lo largo de los años ha trabajado como jefa de investigación y de tendencias en nextatlas.com, una plataforma de pronóstico de tendencias impulsada por inteligencia artificial basada en un flujo de datos de contenidos compartidos por una comunidad internacional de más de 300,000 microinfluencers. Elena, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, Arturo. Nice to meet you all. I'm so happy to have the opportunity to meet you, although virtually, and thank you for having me.
But I think the fact that we're meeting virtually goes very well with the topic we're about to discuss. So what a better way to start. But first, I would like to share a message from the ambassador who is greeting everyone who is, joining this conversation and all the events in Encuentro Creativo. So let me share the video on the screen and then we can start the webinar. Okay.
Soy Luigi De Chiara, embajador de Italia en México. Soy muy feliz de presentar Encuentro Creativo, una producción de la Cámara de Comercio Italiana en México con la Embajada de Italia. En México hay un potencial de talento creativo que me parece no logra salir de sus fronteras con la presentación de la oferta formativa de estas instituciones académicas en el campo de las industrias creativas italianas. Queremos ofrecer no solo la posibilidad de mejorarse de un punto de vista técnico, sino también de saber dónde van las tendencias, cómo se ha construido el éxito del Made in Italy, sobre todo en el sector del estilo de vida.
Es un evento muy importante, Encuentro Creativo, porque da la oportunidad a los estudiantes mexicanos egresados de universidades o de institutos académicos de conocer la oferta educativa que hay para da cursos de posgrado en el campo del diseño, de la moda y de las artes gráficas.
Así que durante estas 2 semanas de encuentro creativo van a poder encontrar tips y conocer acerca de las mejores universidades y institutos italianos. Van a poder conocer a embajadores, a ponentes que están trabajando en la industria, que son también académicos de estas universidades. La finalidad es que disfruten de Italia, que conozcan Italia a través de estos webinars y seminarios y que se aventuren a vivir en Italia y vivir una experiencia llena de conocimiento, de sabiduría y de diseño y de moda. Espero que lo disfruten y muchísimas gracias.
Perfect. Well, just as we saw in the video, this event revolves around creativity, you know, and creativity in 2021 is going, virtual. So here we have an expert who can tell us about this topic. So Elena, I give you the mic.
Thanks. I'm now sharing my screen. Does it work? Can you see?
Yeah, we can see it perfectly.
Thank you. So, the new normal, as you know, is an expression that has been coined to define or to refer reality post-COVID. And actually, the pandemic has acted as a boosting trends that were already on the go, boosting and accelerating drivers of change that in the past as well we have seen emerging. And so they are gaining more and more traction nowadays, subsequently providing creative professionals, designers, art directors, and so on, with mind-blowing new opportunities, meaning that the pandemic has for sure kicked digitalization, but at the same time, it has also encouraged and increased awareness about the imperative of sustainability. So let's say that there is a bright side in the aftermath of the pandemic, and it revolves around the rise of the imperative of sustainability as an ethical imperative, and it also it's about the incredible opportunities brought by the digitalization. So in this webinar, we are going to cover and to also explain through case studies what are the key drivers of change in the new normal. And this will be hopefully for you good food for thoughts, meaning that more and more, especially in creative fields, we have to blur the boundaries between product design, interior design, visual design, fashion design. The more digitalization gains traction, the more these boundaries become blurred. And this is for sure our approach at Istituto Marangoni, encouraging and igniting creativity, trying to cross the borders. So the very first driver of change that has gained traction in the aftermath of the pandemic is the quest for a more sustainable development. Meaning sustainable development as a scenario which lays at the convergence between environmentally friendly development, social also impact, and also an economical impact. So sustainability is defined as the point of the meeting point, okay, between environmental issues, social issues, and also economical issues. More precisely, sustainability nowadays is also, and the quest for sustainability is also, curiously enough, generating new aesthetics in, for instance, fashion. So over the past, let's say, 1 year and a half, we have witnessed the wild success of, for instance, GORP core, because outdoor, being into the wild is considered a new form of luxury. So we have been forced inside our houses, and now that we are back to normality, or that we are trying to adjust to the new normal, we are so fascinated by the outdoors. And GORP is a fashion trend that is exactly about focusing on utilitarian, functional, and outdoor-inspired gear. And interestingly enough, a lot of actually luxury fashion brands have tapped into this world. For instance, Gucci partnering with North Face and also partnering with Pokemon Go, creating a unique limited edition collection that is inspired by the outdoors, inspired by the imagery of camping. And Prada as well, another Italian luxury brand that needs no introduction, is also tapping into this opportunity. Imagine fashion collections and also retail formats that are openly inspired by garden, mountain, coast, and snow. So for outdoor environments that become the life motive of their retail experiences. In addition to the fact that the imperative of sustainability is spreading, and it's no more, let's say, an elitist mindset, but it's getting more and more mainstream, luckily enough, we have also to stress that when it comes to sustainability, it's the circular approach to both production and consumption that is gaining momentum right now. So we are moving beyond a generic approach to sustainability that has also in the past caused the proliferation of greenwashing campaigns, while little by little sustainability is becoming a transformational catalyst of production models. So waste no more is another, let's say, statement, is another claim to refer to an emerging model in both production and consumption. So limiting waste as much as possible, favoring the creative upcycling of, for instance, byproducts or waste downs. In this sense, creative professionals can create incredibly beautiful new objects and new projects by capitalizing resources that are already available. By the way, at the present moment, as you perfectly know, globally speaking, we are witnessing a shortage of materials, and we are also witnessing the crisis of international logistics and transport chains. So also for this reason, localism, zero-kilometer design, and reshoring are gaining more and more traction. And so brands are, on one side, rethinking their supply chain in order to limit waste and in order to become more sustainable. When it comes to a circular approach to design, when it comes to a waste no more approach to design, there are so many amazing projects that show that aesthetics and functionality, and also the inherent meaning, the inherent sense of a project can be combined together in a very consistent and meaningful way. This project is named The Second Nature, and it's a project by a Rotterdam-based research and design studio named The New Raw, and they have partnered with a Waste Zero laboratory in Greece, in Thessaloniki. And so basically they have become champions in the art of converting ghost nets, okay, taken from the ocean, taken from the Mediterranean Sea, into digitally crafted artifacts. So basically they use these ghost nets to as the starting point for a 3D printed manufacturing model. And the effect, as you can see, keeps recalls the imagery of the sea, of the ocean, but also pave the way for a new approach towards nature. Moving from product design to surface design. This is a designer named Elena Yanling NG, and she has created a collection of speckled wall tiles that are made with shells of eggs discarded by bakeries. And so the name itself plays a little bit with this. It's a play on words. So carrelé in French means to tile, to pave, and the Ca is the chemical symbol of calcium in reference to the calcium carbonate, which is used to make an eggshell. And then here upcycled. Probably you are already aware and familiar with the distinction between recycling and upcycling. Basically, upcycling, it's recycling by elevating the function or the aesthetic attribute of the product. And upcycling is about adding a creative touch, a more poetical touch. And this is where design comes into play, when we are not only recycling, but also upcycling. So somehow enabling the final product. Another key driver of change that deserves to be for sure mentioned when it comes to this trend scenario in the new normal is the decline of maximalism. As you probably know, or as you have probably noticed, actually before the pandemic, we were at the peak of a proliferation of maximalist aesthetics intended to be super Instagram friendly. So very rich, bold, intended to catch the eye in a very small handheld screen. But interestingly enough, because of the pandemic, actually we are now shifting towards a completely different aesthetic approach that is not about charging, it's not about adding, it's not about extreme decoration for the sake of it. On the contrary, it's about decluttering. It's about removing what is not necessarily. It's about giving a priority to the things that we really consider relevant. And by the way, this also results from the fact that more and more we want to feel safe, and safety is easier when you are, for instance, in a decluttered environment. And so minimalism is back, but it's a form of minimalism which is warm, okay, which is soft, which is characterized by rounded shapes and rounded silhouettes. And in addition to this, and also consistently with the decline of maximalism that is paving the way for a revival of a softer and warmer minimalist aesthetics, well-being as well has become the core of human experiences, is what we really long for. It redefines the very same idea of desirability. It's no more about necessarily being wealthy, but being for sure healthy, and feeling a sense of safety around us. And this is, as you can imagine, a very inspiring starting point for designers. How to address this need for well-being, how to recreate, how to restore a sense of calm, a sense of peace, a sense of safety around us. In this sense, there is an emerging design trend that we are monitoring at Next Atlas, and that we are, of course, studying and leveraging at Istituto Marangoni, and we call it design therapy. So design therapy is a design trend that means wherever aesthetic is involved, okay, go simple, pure colors, clean shapes, rounded silhouettes, make particular features super evident also from the visual point of view and obvious in terms of constructions and use to the user. And this trend is very transversal, because it's not only about product design or interior design, it's also about visual design, visual communication. And here the point at issue is to avoid as much as possible messy clusters of shapes, to actually favor and reduce as much as possible the visual background noise. So let's have a look at a good example, a bright example of design therapy applied, for instance, to interior design. The project is named Soul Realm Spa. It's in Hangzhou, China. And basically, this is a cave-like spa, entirely covered with white clay, so walls finished in white clay. As you can see from the images, this place is results from a network of circular rooms and circular walls. And interestingly enough, the inspiration of this project is the shape of the traditional Tibetan singing bowl that is commonly used for meditation. And so starting from this small detail, the project revolves around this with the idea to create a sort of sanctuary for meditation. When it comes to color trends, as you probably already know, digital lavender is the color that is set to redefine the 2023 and to give the mood to our close future. It's a very pale purple shade that is gaining traction across a number of different fields, from consumer electronics to makeup, from fashion to interior. And color psychologists say that digital lavender signifies stability, serenity, but also a form of escapism in digital virtual worlds. So it's a fascinating evidence, because before the pandemic, we have witnessed the rise of the so-called techlash, meaning increasing concern towards the negative effects of pervasive technology, and also a sense of discomfort about issues such as privacy, such as extreme automation, extreme profiling through artificial intelligence. And so before the pandemic, technology in terms of reputation, and for sure also the big sisters of the Silicon Valley were in dire straits. Actually, during the pandemic, digital media have allowed us to survive, to keep contacts, and to actually overcome such a challenging moment. And so technology is no more demonized nowadays, and digital lavender signifies that we look at digital worlds, we look at technology in a positive way again. As Arturo said in his introduction, the virtualization of everything is an overarching and extremely impactful driver of change. Virtualization of everything means not only the impact of virtual reality, it's not only the gamification of everything, it's also about a new aesthetic that is about the convergence between reality and virtuality. It seems that more and more the lines between our physical and virtual worlds are blurring. And all the images that you see in this slide, actually, they are virtual things, included Shudo, this incredibly beautiful model that actually is 100% computer generated. And so virtual items, virtual influencers, virtual landscapes are invading not only our social media streams, but are generating new forms of desirability. And what is truly fascinating in these aesthetics of virtual crafting is that these digital things actually appear excitingly tactile, and they invite us to an interaction, okay, that also plays with their multi-sensory appearance. So digital graphics are gaining more and more traction, both as virtual dreamscapes and as dreamlike settings for real life items. So this is the convergence and also the overlapping between reality and virtuality. So actually also the boom of video games and gamified branded experiences together with the proliferation of the so-called metaverses that are virtual worlds, shared, persistent, are deeply, deeply influencing our visual imagery. And when it comes to virtual crafting applied to design, among the names, among the protagonists of this wildly successful trend, we have to mention the Argentinian digital artist Andres Reisener, who is considered one of the pioneers of virtual crafting applied to product design. His world is full of digital, digital pieces that in some cases are converted in NFTs, and that in some cases actually step in real life, such as the Hortensia chair that you can see top right. This chair actually has been conceived as a digital only armchair, but then the MUI, the design brand MUI, actually put it into production in a limited edition. So at the present moment, you can buy the Hortensia chair or as a digital only file, or as a real design piece, like a conversational piece for design collectors. And when we look at this kind of projects, it becomes apparent that nowadays the boundaries between, for instance, product design, visual design, computer graphics, interior design, they become more and more blurred. And we are in a dreamy landscape that is at the same time surreal, but it's so well done, well executed, well crafted, okay, that it suggests the idea that we can simply touch this item, okay, and make them ours. There is another name that we for sure need to associate to virtual crafting. Lucy Arkestel is a British digital artist, and we at Istituto Marangoni, we have been lucky enough to have her as a visiting lecturer. And Lucy Arkestel is specialized in blurring the boundaries between reality and virtuality. This project has been conceived for a shopping venue in China, in Xintiandi Plaza, Shanghai. And it is at the same time an animated film intended to promote the place and using motion graphics, but it's also a way to create a sort of a short circuit between reality and virtuality. So Lucy Arkestel is really a champion in this art of reproducing through motion graphics movements that are typical of the natural world, but translating it, decontextualizing in a completely virtual environment. As I mentioned in the introduction, the virtualization of everything does not only refer to objects or design products or installations, because computer-generated influencers as well are part of this phenomenon. Lil Michaela is probably the most popular computer-generated influencer, She is partly Spanish and partly Brazilian. At the present moment, she has, if I'm not wrong, more than 2 million followers on Instagram. She works as a brand ambassador for brands such as Prado and many more. And she is, for instance, also a music artist. And on Spotify, you can listen to her songs. And she is also an activist for women's rights. And well, she doesn't exist, but she is a character, and she is provided with a personality. Of course, behind these computer-generated influencers, we have creative directors that, like masterminds, they give a personality. And Lil Micaela is not the only computer-generated influencer. She is only the pioneer of a new breed of computer-generated characters. And they look like real people. They have personalities and interests. This is Lil Micaela with her fiancé. And this is, for instance, Nonuri. Nonuri is the creature of the German creative director Jörg Zuber that we had as a visiting lecturer at Istituto Marangoni. And Nonuri is as young as Lil Micaela. She is working with the biggest brands. She is vegan, and she lives in Paris, and she is involved in many campaigns and co-branding projects. And among the brands that have featured Nonuri, we can mention Marc Jacobs, Dior, Versace, and so on, and many more. And she has also been the ambassador for Kim Kardashian's makeup line. And what is interesting in the Nonuri character is that she is at the same time a sort of role model, but she is also a fantasy. And by purpose, Jörg Zuber kept this manga-like appearance with these big eyes to stress the fact that actually she is digital, that she's not, she can't be taken for a real character. And not only computer-generated influencers, virtual clothing is on the rise as well. Virtual clothing is about reinventing a fashion experience by actually rolling out digital-only garments that are worn only for posts on social networks. And behind the virtual clothing as a trend, there is, of course, also some reasons about the environmental impact of traditional fashion. So this phenomenon is still a niche phenomenon, but it's driven by this environmentally friendly consumer behavior. So instead of renouncing, instead of giving up, fashionistas, they are experimenting with virtual clothing. the fabricant is considered together with the carlings.
Chicos, les recordamos apagar sus micrófonos para que no interrumpan la sesión, por favor. Sorry, someone turned its microphone.
Okay, no problem. Yes, the fabricant is together with carlings, a brand that is specialized and only focused on virtual clothing. And they are paving the way for other brands that have been founded in order to address this need for virtual clothing. There are well-established brands such as Gucci that have been very reactive in identifying virtual clothing as a new business opportunity. And for instance, Gucci has partnered with the virtual sneaker app Wanna in order to release their first augmented reality sneakers. So basically, you can buy a pack of 25 pairs of virtual sneakers, and then you can wear them through augmented reality and share them on social networks. It's also interesting in terms of business model because it's super affordable compared to a tangible Gucci sneakers. And so it opens like a new market. Okay, and it creates a form of engagement that is extremely important, especially when it comes to Generation Z, which is the cohort between 9 and 20 years old. So brands such as Gucci, Balenciaga, Louis Vuitton, they are investing a lot in augmented reality, virtual reality, gamified branded experiences in order to be relevant for Generation Z. And this brings us to another widely successful phenomenon, opening a new market, the NFT craze. NFT is an acronym which stands for non-fungible tokens. In other words, an NFT is a digital asset. Okay, this digital asset is encrypted in a blockchain. A blockchain is a digital infrastructure, okay, that allows us to have the ownership of digital items. The very first killer application of the blockchain technology has been the Bitcoin, as we know. And Bitcoins have popularized the blockchain as an emerging technology. And now the NFT craze is, let's say, only a new chapter of this story. Because more and more artists, designers, filmmakers, musicians, let's say creative minds, are minting NFTs on the blockchain technology in order to create unique digital assets. The great implication of the blockchain technology is that it ensures transparency, and it's based on a decentralized model, because basically a blockchain is a digital ledger. And so this creates a brand new playground for creative people. These crypto punks that you see in at the bottom of the mood board, they have been sold for millions of dollars. So one single, let's say, JPEG or GIF becomes a super valuable and super expensive asset, although digital, yet encrypted in the blockchain. You can exchange it, you can sell it, and this drives the market of collectibles. Beeple is another digital artist that has gained a lot of popularity over the past months, because this image, which is actually the combination of 5,000 visual artworks that people has developed over the years, have combined together, and it has been sold for $69 million. And this is a file. Okay, so as you can imagine, this unveils mind-blowing opportunities for artists, visual designers, because digital artworks now have the very same dignity, okay, and they are also considered much cooler than traditional art. The NFT craze is also invading architecture and interior design. The Mars House is actually a virtual home that has been designed by the Canadian artist Krista Kim. And it's a digital-only home sold for more than $500,000, the equivalent in cryptocurrency. And this house can be experienced in virtual reality, but it can also be experienced in augmented reality. And let's have a look inside it. So it seems literally a three-dimensional parallel alternative reality, okay, which reproduces, that also augments our perception. And when it comes to, for instance, digital artworks converted in NFTs, and when it comes to this short circuit between virtuality and reality, there is another impressive case study, the Key Arens project. She has actually created this NFT-backed GIF that you see now, and in addition, okay, to this NFT GIF, the person that actually purchased the GIF, the NFT GIF, have been also given with a real house that is the very same house which is depicted in this artwork. So in this case, the relationship between virtuality and reality is inverted, because the true asset, okay, the true value for which the owner of this artwork has paid money is the GIF. Okay, and as an extra benefit, this person has been provided with a true house in the US, in California. The Central End is another NFT-based, entirely NFT-based virtual world. It's powered by Ethereum blockchain, which is the competitor of many other blockchains, and that is gaining a lot of popularity. Open to the public in February 2020, it's overseen by a non-profit company named the Central End Foundation. And basically, what we are witnessing is that people are investing money in a real estate in the Central End. They are building their houses. There are brands and businesses and retailers that are opening their flagship stores on the Central End. So it's a sort of new version of a Second Life, but it's powered by the blockchain technology. And the Central End is becoming incredibly popular. Recently, a virtual shopping district named Metajuku has been developed inside the Central End. It looks like exactly the Tokyo shopping district Harajuku. So it's a sort of digital replica of a shopping district in Tokyo.
This is Decentraland, a virtual world that's owned by its users. And people are paying thousands of dollars in cryptocurrency for the chance to create a new virtual life online, and maybe even make a profit.
I'm not selling it until it's worth at least 10 million. They're the riskiest investments in the whole world.
So will it be a virtual paradise or a crypto property bubble? In Decentraland, users can build whatever they can imagine on plots of virtual land. The world has been set up by Argentinian developers, and its first city is made up of 90,000 parcels of land, 10 meters squared. At auction, people paid more than $28 million for plots. That's over £22 million, making it the largest ever sale of virtual land. Sam Flair was one of those who paid for a plot.
I'd watched a film about virtual reality and I liked the idea of owning virtual land. But I also wanted a platform where I can go and mess around and play about with virtual reality.
Sam's plot is in the northwest of the city and cost around $900. That's just under £700.
This popped up and I was like, it's near this area that a few of my friends are in. A few of my friends might actually get it.
So you can all hang out with virtual reality?
Basically, yeah. It'll be pretty much exactly the same as Facebook, except you'll be able to hear and see each other, be it in VR. So a bit more of a real experience, as long as we've got the internet, stick our headsets on, and we'll be able to have friends come around my house in Decentraland, or I can go to their house for a virtual cup of tea.
The record price for a square of land so far is $180,000, paid for a plot near the city's central plaza, where virtual visitors first arrive. That's made people who bought land early on question just how much it might be worth now. How high would the price have to get for you to sell that land?
Yeah, I'm not selling it until it's worth at least 10 million.
10 million?
Yeah. Whoa, someone's paid 10,000.
Sam shows me plots that are being listed for resale for six-figure sums. Purchases are made in a cryptocurrency called mana. When I met Sam, one mana was just over 10 cents.
This one here, for example, is 8 million mana, which is over $800,000.
800,000?
That's nearly $1 million.
$1 million? But it doesn't exist.
It does here, and it will do in about a year, I believe.
But the amount of money people are investing doesn't mean the world will be a success.
What matters really is, will it be a good game that people want to play? Well, they've got some talented people involved, and they are gamers themselves. I'm sure that they won't try to create something bad, and it should at least be half decent. But we'll see if it really captures the imagination. If people who do not give a hoot about blockchains want to play the game, that will be the measure of whether this has been a success.
To try and attract visitors, there are plans to build.
So in conclusion of this case study, and then I warmly recommend you to have a look at this video, the total video, is that we are only at the beginning of this brand new shift towards virtual worlds. So there is a lot of hype, a lot of excitement, and it's also a sort of white three-dimensional canvas where people can be free to build, to behave, to express themselves. But it's also, of course, controversial. So it's extremely important when, especially when tech-driven trends are becoming mainstream, that we use our critical abilities to always consider also all the implications of this kind of disruptive changes. There is another driver that is set to redefine the world as we know it, the digital media acceleration, the proliferation of new digital media. It means that more and more mainstream social networks such as Facebook or Instagram will be replaced very quickly by new social networks. And so I'm referring to the wild success of Twitch, Discord, Snapchat, of course, TikTok. We have also witnessed the rise of Clubhouse, the social network for audio content. And so if we compare the new media scenario that we are witnessing nowadays with what used to happen only a couple of years ago, we see many more players, many more platforms, and each one is extremely verticalized. Okay, and this creates more complexity, more opportunities, both for brands and creative minds. For sure, the decline of traditional media is expected to continue, and in contraposition, the rise and the proliferation of new media. And given this context, brands that want to stay relevant need to evolve into media platforms as well, continuously dropping content, continuously dropping compelling storytelling. In this sense, the scenario is extremely open, especially for creative people that are interested in unconventional ways of communicating. Gamification is another watchword that we have to take into high consideration while we are envisioning the future of creativity. Gamification is defined as the use of fun and addictive elements borrowed from video games and game design in non-playful contexts. So elements taken from video games applied to fashion, to design, to brand experiences, to education, okay? And it's incredibly transversal, the impact of gamification. By the way, this is also generating remarkable aesthetics that, again, play with computer graphics and that convey an imagery that is sometimes disturbing, sometimes dystopic, sometimes but for sure memorable. So who is championing gamification in non-playful contexts? Well, for sure, Gucci has invested a lot in this sense in order to mark their 100th anniversary under with the creative direction of Alessandro Michele. He started as a creative director 6 years ago, but he has organized a number of incredible initiatives to celebrate the anniversary of the brand. And among these incredible program of initiatives, Gucci has launched a brand experience directly on Roblox, so the gaming platform. And in parallel, while this virtual experience, Gucci virtual experience was taking place on Roblox, at the Gucci Garden in Florence, Italy, in parallel, the very same initiative took place. So basically, they have recreated a virtual garden on Roblox and have created this oniric surreal garden. And then a number of digital-only limited edition pieces have been released. We are moving towards the end of this webinar, and then I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. So please feel free in the meantime to post them on the chat. Basically, the emerging scenario that is going to redefine and also that is going to provide the creative people with the mind-blowing opportunities is the so-called metaverse. Metaverse is a neologism that refers to three-dimensional virtual spaces. Metaverse is considered the upcoming evolution of internet. And metaverses are persistent, they are shared, they are three-dimensional, they are gamified. And this scenario is enabled by spatial computing and 5G. So we have shared so far not only, let's say, a selection of key drivers of change, but actually we have pointed new emerging scenarios that represent opportunities for brands, for businesses. But the point at issue is really how to take advantage from these drivers of change, how to cope with the digital transformation, how to transform this shift, this disruption into an opportunity without feeling overwhelmed. This is the reason why at the Istituto Marangoni we have conceived a new professional figure. We call it the Nexter. A Nexter is a professional creative director that is an expert in the field of design for digital communication, an expert of advanced branding. An Nexter is for sure a content creator that is expert in the art of storytelling, of course, emphasizing the visual dimension of storytelling. And he is both a creative person and a strategist. An Nexter is at ease with the latest trends, is perfectly comfortable with the new media and well aware of the creative opportunities brought by emerging technologies. And so for this reason, we think that we have to redefine some professional figures. Probably it's no more enough to be simply a fashion designer, a product designer, an interior designer, a creative director, because the more we move towards extreme digitalization, metaverses, virtualization of everything, the more these boundaries blur. And we need to create new professional figures that will be able to tap into these opportunities. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Elena. I think it's really interesting because from the past week, we have had different webinars on design and creativity, and to see it from a different perspective, you know, creating spaces, creating furniture, creating objects, creating fashion, but for a virtual platform, it's interesting because you know, as we are doing right now, we spend much of our time on the internet. So it's not something, you know, impossible or you know, to, like far from our reality, you know. We spend so much of our education, of our work, of our social life on the internet, on computers, on our cell phone. So to drive, you know, these creative professions and fields into this world is just the next step. You know, it was meant to happen. It's the progress and the evolution of it. So let me see if we have some questions for you.
Sure.
So Monica Garcia asked, which could be the principal difference between make an experience and just a simple game?
Good question, Monica. Thank you for your question. Video games have become, not today, but over the past decades, the main territory, okay, to drive engagement. So we have to replace this idea of video games as, let's say, an activity for nerd people, geek, and so on. No, video games are a mainstream phenomenon. The amount of money revolving around video games is higher than movie pictures plus sports combined. Okay, so this gives us at first sight how relevant, how mainstream. So video games are not only a way to spend the time to get entertained, they are platforms for socializing. Okay, they are places to learn, to experiment, to get together. And what is super fascinating in games, or let's call them metaverses, such as Fortnite, for instance, or such as the Decentraland, is that no matter if you are playing, you are there, okay? And you, your attention, your energy, and your also design capabilities are there. And so probably there's no way back in this sense.
That's really interesting that you mentioned that, because in the, you know, in the press conference when we first, you know, premiered Encuentro Creativo, the ambassador of Italy in Mexico said that, you know, Italians are very creative, but they don't just make objects, they create industries. And that's what's happening here. We might think, you know, a graphic or, you know, a render is just a thing, but as we see in your presentation, it's a huge industry where a lot of, you know, money is involved, you know, e-commerce, you know, which it's funny for me to say e-commerce because, you know, it's like most of the things we buy nowadays are through e-commerce, you know, either if it's, you know, just on Uber Eats, Netflix, we're always buying things digitally, you know, and we sometimes don't even have, you know, tangible objects or service, you know, you don't own anything you have on Netflix, but you still see it. And that's something, and we enjoy that. So why wouldn't we enjoy something as, you know, as examples you presented? Someone asked, I have another question. Just let me switch to Spanish to encourage more people to ask. Chicos, tenemos una experta aquí, así que por favor hay que aprovechar su conocimiento y si tienen alguna pregunta, no duden en escribirla, la pueden escribir en español y se la decimos en inglés sin problema. So Natalia Milan asked, following the topic of Lil Michaela and taking into consideration that social media can have a negative effect over the user's mental health and body image, do you think that having a human approach or vulnerable dialogue is fundamental for virtual influencers, specifically after the pandemic?
Well, thank you, Natalia, for your question. Luckily, we are getting more and more aware of the implications of social media when it comes to mental health issues, or the idea to feel that you are adequate or not to certain how can I say, standards, okay. comparing Lil Michaela and Nonuri, I do appreciate much more the second project, for the very simple reason that by purpose, the mastermind behind Nonuri, Joy Zuber, kept her more, it looks more like a doll, okay, by purpose, in order not to give a fake representation of reality. So, and it was, I think, an ethical choice not to renounce this. The Lil Michaela project is in fact much more controversial, because the popularity of this computer-generated influencer was driven by the fact that actually people, they didn't know that she was not real. While for Nonuri, she exactly looks like a manga character. So it's like something different. It is not intended to replace. And this is one consideration. The other consideration is that actually the human influencers have probably depicted, okay, an imagery that is so based on desirability, aspirationality, that is then perceived as too distant, okay? And then it creates, let's say, anxiety. They create a sense of being not adequate, and so on. So this fake representation of reality that has been spread by not all the influencers, but some of them, okay? So airbrushing images, filters, okay, so reworking continuously their image. So, okay, they are real, but they look like they are fake. And so the fake ones, the computer-generated one, they are designed and crafted to look real. And the combination of these two things, of course, create a sort of short circuit. And so we really need to train and to refine our critical abilities in order to be aware of all the implications.
I also, adding to this, argument, I also think that, for instance, in real world, to join, one of these big platforms like Fashion Week or these, these big fairs of design for furniture, you need to first, have, a trajectory, maybe spend, certain amount of money and all. And, the internet gives you the opportunity to have a platform without, putting, a lot of into it. Viralization is a huge tool for young creatives. And if you think, the influencers and the representation we are having in the virtual world is not enough, you can always build yourself something. Obviously you have to study and to work with it, but there's no limitation on what you can create on the internet. So if you think,
yes. And this is a piece of good news. This is the bright side of the coin. Okay, but at the same time, we have to be aware and critical and ready to always face it, to the big picture. Okay, because in some cases, the tech-driven change creates the hype, and it moves so fast that we don't have time to realize the implication, and then maybe it becomes too late. Okay, and there are two more questions.
Yeah, we have a couple more questions. I think we should answer them because this is a really interesting topic.
Sure.
Almost like a one chance in a lifetime. So, one number who has no name asked in Spanish. The digital world will be a form of democratization of fashion, or it's just a simple form of exclusive market?
The democratization of fashion, I think, will be increased thanks to a virtual approach to fashion. For instance, some of the virtual garments that we have seen from the fabricant or Carlings, or the Gucci sneakers with augmented reality, are far more affordable the equivalent so in this sense, yes. But as soon as this parallel world will become a mainstream, we will witness the recreation of the very same dynamics of the market. So driven by early adopters, in order to democratize fashion, very soon we will see that brands will be occupying a certain position in the market, keeping exclusivity as a value proposition first. And the multiverse is expected to be mainstream when the digital infrastructures, meaning spatial computing and 5G, will be global. Because if you don't have the digital infrastructure to sustain and maintain these virtual worlds, they crash. Okay, so technology is here. We have to streamline the process. Okay, and another aspect that is, let's say, object of debate nowadays is the sustainability of NFTs, because as you probably know, mining these digital assets in the blockchain needs a lot of energy. So we have data centers and servers that are used to encrypt the NFTs in the blockchain, and this uses a lot of energy to the extent that this is considered a new form of pollution, the digital pollution. So exactly as with the pollution by industrial factories, industrial revolution, we are in the early stage and we are not totally aware of the implication. There is the hype, okay, and it keeps on going. So especially for this reason, we have to be very attentive and attentive to all the implications.
So we have one question just left. So Alejandra Cerón asked, in which way, you know, fashion brands or brands in general can mix with current trends, as you stated, you know, these digital alternatives without losing its identity or, you know, life, you know? That's what she asked.
I think that the embracing a more digital perspective is not necessarily putting into discussion the identity. I mean, it's another perspective. It can be complementary with the other one. I firmly believe in the convergence of the two things instead of digital replacing physical. Okay, so it's not out. They are not, one is not excluding the other one, but we can augment reality, we can augment the perception, we can augment shopping and branding. In this sense, it's something that we expect, especially professionals working in marketing, communication, branding, to be the ones in charge of keeping the overall consistency. Okay, so it's only a new playground, but it doesn't put into discussion brands' capability and necessity to stay consistent, relevant to their identity.
So apart from that question, everyone's just saying thank you, thank y'all, grazie. Elena, personally, I just became a big fan of you through this conversation.
Me too.
Because, you know, it's really interesting to see, you know, another perspective on creativity, on design, on, you know, on creating objects.
And based on this content, based on this new playground, we have launched a master program in digital art direction in Istituto Marangoni, and also a brand new master in digital design for immersive experiences. So just in case you are interested, consider that these topics are the base of two postgraduate programs at Istituto Marangoni.
And especially it's really interesting to see, you know, such a famous institute, you know, take these steps forward into creativity and into design. And I thank you so much for this conversation. Let me switch to Spanish. So, chicos, esta conferencia va a quedar grabada y la pueden consultar en el sitio web de encuentrocreativo.mx y también en el YouTube de la Cámara de Comercio Italiano en México, porque creo que Elena nos dio muy buenas referencias que nos van a servir a todos para explorar más de nuestra creatividad y entender quiénes son los creativos que están llevando el diseño a nuevas plataformas, ¿no? Les agradezco mucho a los que asistieron, a quienes hicieron sus preguntas, and thank you so much, Elena, for sharing this incredible presentation.
Thank you very much. Much love and take care, guys. Hopefully we'll meet soon in Milano. Why not? Come in and have a coffee with me in Via Cerva 24. Thank you for your close attention.
Thank you very much, Elena. Thank you, Arturo. I was really in love with your presentation because actually I'm a graphic designer, so it was like so much information. And I was thinking about the changes on the everyday aesthetical experience. I mean, the way we are related to our surroundings and how everything is changing. So it's much information. Thank you very much. And I will switch to Spanish. También agradecemos mucho a todos los que nos acompañaron hoy en esta magnífica presentación. Esperamos que lo hayan disfrutado mucho. Y bueno, como ya saben, Encuentro Creativo es un proyecto de la Cámara de Comercio Italiana en México, en colaboración con la Embajada de Italia en México. Y también queremos agradecer mucho a nuestros patrocinadores que hacen posible este evento, como Fénix, patrocinador oficial de esta primera edición de Encuentro Creativo, Seña, Yamamay, Alfa Parf, Ferrero, Amoretti Brothers, Vialetti, Campari, Ferrari México, San Pellegrino, Capricho Cucina, Secretos del Vino, Riedel y Grupo Berlingo. También les recordamos que tienen que registrar su asistencia en los links que enviamos en el chat, porque al cumplir con el 50% de la participación en los eventos podrán participar para una beca del 100% en un curso de verano en Marangoni. Entonces, bueno, hay muchas oportunidades en Italia y una de ellas, por supuesto, Marangoni, este magnífico instituto de diseño y fashion. Y bueno, también invitarlos a que revivan esta conferencia en el sitio web, como ya dijo Arturo, y cualquier otra conferencia que quieran. Tenemos otras de Instituto Marangoni. Y bueno, muchas gracias por acompañarnos y nos vemos en la siguiente sesión. Hasta luego. Gracias, Elena.
Ciao, thank you very much. Bye,
Adiós.
bye. You.